Hello again, Links Players community. Jeffrey Cranford here, and we talked a little bit about last week. Do you want to be caught up in this cosmic drama? Have you ever seen your life as a stewardship? If I were to come in and you and I were just to have a cup of coffee, and I was to ask you, how are you stewarding your life? Someone would say, well, I'm going to church, or I'm part of a little thing. But missionally, have you ever sensed that maybe God has a particular stewardship for you? Part of that is a community that's missional, that's evangelistic. That's where we get the proto-evangelium, the very first kind of preaching of the gospel that takes us all the way back to, well, it's where we get evangelism, but it goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 3, not just the New Testament. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about that this morning. I want to get caught up in this drama. I don't want to be a fish in a bowl. I want to understand what God's plans are, not only for planet Earth, but for the cosmos, all of us, this narrative of all of Scripture. So I want to go all the way back to Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to see, strangely enough, just a little bit about the emergence of the Christmas story. Now, most people think the Christmas story starts when you get a baby born in a manger and we get to the Gospels. But actually, there's a hinting at this right after the fall. If you'll remember in Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve made the mistake. They ate from the wrong tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what did they do? Well, they immediately hid themselves. Let me ask you a question. Do you have anybody that you play golf with routinely that you know is hiding from God? Immediately they began to cover themselves with leaves and, philanthropic work or whatever. And you know, if this friend of yours, if this woman that plays golf with you, or whatever this is, if they just had any comprehension of God and the love that Jesus has for them, it would be extraordinary. But they don't. They're hiding. Well, Genesis chapter 3, here's the response. The Lord immediately goes, kills two animals, covers them in the skins. Again, I had a buddy of mine say that was the very first skins game, and I thought that was kind of corny, but he pulled me out afterwards. He said that was the first skins game. But anyway, they were covered. That's a picture. And then God says this, and it's powerful. He didn't curse the man and the woman, but he cursed Satan, and he cursed the earth. And then here's what he said, and it's powerful. Catch this. He says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. Well, what does that mean? It means that Satan, this was going to be a crushing defeat from the seed of this woman who would eventually become Israel. This woman eventually become Israel down through the spiritual line, and eventually that seed would be Jesus. And he would crush Satan's head for all time. But before he's able to do that, you're going to bruise him on the heel, and that's what happened. I've always told groups through the years that the cross was a heel shot. In other words, a heel shot will knock you to the ground, but it doesn't wipe you out. And Jesus popped back up perfectly and succinct with the spring feast, the Feast of First Fruits. He was, again, raised from the dead, which changed the course of all human history, gave us hope for our own resurrection. But what does that mean for me? Well, Satan is the one who crushes the serpent's head, but I am now involved in this cosmic drama in the sense that battle continues to rage. In Ephesians chapter 6, for instance, Paul says, our battle is not against flesh and blood. It's against powers and principalities and spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places, and that we're to put on our full armor. Some of that armor is protective. It's defensive. A shield, for instance, or a helmet, or a breastplate. But there are other things like the sword of the Spirit that, it's an offensive tool. We are still involved. If you can imagine that your stewardship with something as simple as your fellowship, we're not just trying to get some Christians to come together and have fellowship at these various places. We want to penetrate. We want to do battle with the Word and have these people that have been hiding, maybe people you play golf with or people in your community. People have been hiding from God their entire lives, just an open channel, an open door through your stewardship. Now, as we advance from chapter 3, next week we'll look at Genesis chapter 12, and this becomes more specific, and the seed becomes we get more details about what this is going to look like, and I think it's going to be super exciting for you to see as we see Genesis chapter 12 next week. Hope you have a great week.